Right, hello Environmental Club. My name is Kyle Manley. I own and operate Manley Gardening LLC, located here in White Bear Lake. You've seen our truck or car driving around. I'm going to talk to you guys today about your South Campus project. I've got 15 minutes, so I'll try to go quickly here. Main goals of the garden project is number one, student participation. Number two, sustainable plantings and the garden design, and also making it an interactive space that we can sort of get into it and enjoy it. I like to break down my projects down into sort of three phases. So we've got the first phase, which is the consult. Phase two is the design aspect. Phase three is the installation. Another part of it too is the upkeep, but we'll focus on these three today. Phase one, that's where I come out, and I've already done this, but talking about the needs and wants for the area. And then I look at the environmental conditions. Also, what's the soil like, water like, sun conditions, all those things. I also take measurements. I use drones for that. So I sent a drone up and took a top-down photo and imported that in the beds and that type of thing. And then phase two, we're going to mainly talk about this today. We'll be going over three different drafts I've done, matching those needs and wants to the conditions. Sometimes we got to change those up a little bit because we can't always get everything we want in a garden because of the conditions that are there. Also figuring out the cost. So once we start finalizing the design, then we see how much the plants are going to cost us, materials, see if we're above or below, and then where we might need to tourniquet things or sort of fill things out. And then phase three is installation, where you guys will play a really big part. You need to coordinate all the labor, and then I will be coordinating material deliveries, so things like mulch, rock, edging, plants, all that type of thing. And then I'll be teaching you guys as well how to plant correctly, and then also we'll be talking about how to plan for upkeep and what a maintenance plan will look like. Phase one, like I said, I've already done. Here's a nice little drone video. Again, talking about the interactive elements, the sustainable elements, and aesthetically making it look aesthetically pleasing. It looks a little rough, as you can tell right now from the footage. Nice little video around there. And we'll also be taking those piece poles and the artistic poles and maybe moving those around a little bit as well. When I'm working on the design, here's a few elements I think about. Soil condition. So what's the soil like? Is it sandy? Is it heavy? Is it like clay? Because that's going to determine what type of plants we put there. And also if we need to do some sort of changing of drainage or digging out of soil, replacing it, amending it, that type of thing. Another one is water. What's the water like in the area? Is it in a low boggy spot? Is it in a high really dry spot? Is it under a sheltered area? Under a large tree? All these things affect how water will get into the plant and if there's water at all, that type of thing. Also looking at elevation and structure of the area. Is there retaining walls? That affects the hardiness of the plants and the roots because they're exposed and not protected as much. Also use. Is there going to be a lot of people walking through it or just a small amount of people? Sun and shade is a really large one. In general, the more sunny area, the more energy you can get to make flowers. The shadier the area, the less flowers you're going to be able to get. There's just less energy coming to the plant. So we think about things like leaf texture and other aspects besides flowers that we can focus on. And maintenance too. Again, it's not a matter of if a garden's going to need maintenance, but to a degree of how much. Are you going to have to be out there 2 days a week? Are you going to have to be out there 1 hour a month? There will always be some sort of maintenance, and managing that with what you're looking for is important. So again, phase two, got a typo though, phase two of the design that we're in process right now. So we got three options that I'm going to go through with you today. A few things we can sort of mix with them. So if you see something you like maybe in design two that you want to incorporate into design one, we can do that. But I tried to keep a few elements consistent throughout. Some things we can't really change, but here's sort of a few ideas. So draft one, I'm just calling the classroom, some sort of outdoor living classroom area where you could take a class, sit outside, watch a teacher do a lecture, or something. So there's sort of this lecture area, and then we've got a student seating area. In terms of the furniture, you guys are gonna have to think about what you're gonna want. I won't be able to really find the furniture for you guys. Also keep in mind, if there's students and things going out, are they gonna have a spot to sit? Is it not gonna, you don't really want to sit on the ground. Um, are they gonna have a place to write down notes, that type of thing? Is there gonna be enough space? So this is just sort of an option or something to think about if you want to have an outdoor living classroom in that area. In all the designs, there's a rain garden spot. So this is going to catch flow from the roof. We're going to be able to sort of sequester some of that in the rain barrels there. And then also we have got a dry riverbed here that can catch water and then sort of divert it to that downspout. And then around that downspout, we can do a rain garden. So when you get lots of rain in some periods, the plants can absorb a lot of that moisture. And then the whole idea is to prevent runoff and storm, preventing that from going into the storm sewers and running off into the lake, that type of thing. So we're trying to sequester a lot of water and chemicals and runoff and that type of thing in those rain gardens. So that's sort of consistent throughout the designs. This tree also is already there. We're not going to be able to move that at all, so we're going to kind of plan around it. The other aspect with this one is you take those peace poles, move them to the hill to kind of give it a little bit more uniform look. And then doing some vegetable raised beds on the north side because we're getting enough sun. And then also all the designs have a compost bin. They don't all have the vegetable gardens here, but the compost bin, we can take the trimmings. You can take, at the end of the season when we prune things down, we can compost it. Once that's composted, you can dump that on the soil again and on the plants, and it'll feed them. Also in this design, we've got sun-tolerant, low-maintenance plants. We got some catmint going along the path, and then we've got Karl Forester grass and some of the evergreens that we've already got there, and some echinaceas. From the top down, you can see this gray path in this gray area. Right now, I've got it as gray trap, and what we can do is sort of do edging around that steel edging, and then sorry, there's a car alarm going off outside. Anyway, and then we can compact that gray trap to be really hard and compact. So it makes a really hard walking surface, and it's pretty durable. It's not going to wash away. It's a really kind of a cheap but nice way and aesthetically pleasing way to get a really compact, hard, high traffic surface in. The second draft here, I'm just calling it the garden lounge, I guess. So instead of a classroom, we've got an area where you can kind of sit and relax. And then, we've got the rain garden here. Another aspect I was thinking about is if we incorporate a tree into the top hill area, like a crabapple, it's not going to get super large, but it'll have some nice blooming in the spring. And then also the plantings underneath it will have to do more shade tolerant because we don't have as much sun. And then on the north side, we still have got the vegetable gardens here and the compost bin, and then some ferns along the windows up there. Again, you can see that here. The car alarm's still going off. Ugh. Again, and then this is that area where the tree's already existing. These are all shade tolerant plants that'll do well there. And sort of containing the garden in a few different areas, because we can't have the garden going everywhere. That would be too much to upkeep. So this area is going to be seeded, or we could do sod, just to keep it a little bit easier for whoever does the lawn mowing to get in there. Otherwise, they're going to have to be mowing around things all the time, and it's going to be a little bit too much to upkeep. The third one here is a student study. I just sort of named it that, but instead of having raised beds here, we've got some seating area. Again, with that compacted gray trap, some Karl Forester grass along the edge. I've also got a tree in the design here. That's something we could put there. And then moving those totems up here again. And this is sort of a random native bed. So we've got echinaceas, grama oats, butterfly bush, not butterfly bush, butterfly weed, and some other plants in there. So this would be sort of like a random assortment of native plantings. That might be kind of nice. Again, full sun, heat tolerant, pretty durable plants. Then we've got the raised beds on the south side here next to the seating area. Again, these vegetable gardens might not do quite as well because there's a big tree here, and our sun's going to be coming from the south side, so it might get a little shaded out, but in midsummer should produce pretty well. Again, you can see the top down there. Another seating area with possibly a tree. Still got that compost. We're going to need to have that compost in there regardless. Same with the rain garden and the runoff area. This middle area we can play with a little bit. If we have a tree in there, we'll have to make it a sun or a shade area, but we can do lots of different plantings in there. So that's one area we can have a little more flexibility with the planting. So some things I need from you guys, and I'll send out a handout for you to work on as a class or as a group. My first question is, what draft was most appealing to you? And you kind of have to decide as a group. Also, are there any elements that are missing completely from the design that you liked or maybe were looking for? So maybe I just totally missed something that's really important to incorporate. Third one here, are there any elements you want to remove from the design that you didn't like? I messed the wording up on that one. Kind of putting this together quick. But anything that was like, oh, we like this design, but we really didn't like, X, Y, or Z. And then I can take that out and maybe replace it with something else. Something to think about as well is who's going to be taking care of the garden after it's installed. Is it going to be the environmental club? Is it going to be the custodians, groundskeeper? Are you going to have to hire a company to come in? Really come up with a solid plan for that. And also, how many hours can you spare to take care of the garden? A vegetable garden is going to have a lot of different care routine than a perennial garden, depending on what plants are picked. And depending on how many hours and how much time you can commit to it, that'll determine sort of the design. And also don't overcommit. Don't say you can do 12 hours a week when really you guys can maybe do 3 hours a month or something like that. Because what will happen is it's just going to get overgrown. It's going to turn into what it is now. So make sure you're realistic with what you're thinking about and how much you can actually spare to take care of the garden. Another opportunity is maybe you can turn it into a service learning opportunity as well. Again, think about when you all graduate, who's going to keep it up? Gardens are for, decades. They're not for a few months or 4 years. Yes, they do change, but the general structures you plan for the long term. So think at least, 10 years down the line, after you graduate, maybe you go to college or tech school or whatever, you come back in 10 years, who's going to be keeping that space up? Also, when you're coordinating some of the labor, I want you to think about who's going to get all the tools. You might have 30 volunteers, but if you got 2 shovels, you're not going to be able to dig very many holes. Or if you've only got 2 wheelbarrows, you can't move as much material, that type of thing. Also, in terms of that outdoor living furniture, if there's something you have in mind, that'll be something you guys will have to purchase and kind of search around. I won't be able to help too much with that. All right, talking about phase 3 real quick in the last couple of minutes I've got. What I will do, I'm going to schedule deliveries of all the materials, so plants, mulch, rock, edging, for when you need it, and I'll schedule it so they arrive the day before you want to work on it, or you could even do a couple days. You don't want to have those plants sit out too long. They really do need to be watered every day if they're in the container, especially sitting in the sun, otherwise they'll die. I will also show you how to plant things properly, and I'll probably come in a little before, and we can hopefully meet in person with COVID, depending on how this COVID works out and everything in the spring. And then also some other things the day of or maybe a few days before. Your main goal for the installation is going to be, where are we going to dump all this material when it gets delivered? Depending how much rock, it might be, 10 yards. That's one of the bigger trucks. Where are we going to dump it? Where are we going to put the mulch? Where are we going to put the plants? Figuring that out. Also, you got to schedule go for one to come out to mark public utilities. I do at least 3 business days before if they run behind. We got to get that marked before you dig, and also talk to the facilities managers, see if there's any private lines in that area that you have to watch out for. Also, you're going to have to coordinate all the labor, people, tools, food, water breaks, that type of thing, get everyone on site on time. Think about weather, what if it storms, timing, what if it takes longer than we were thinking, and safety. So I'll send out a handout to you guys to get me answers back on that. And I'll apply that, and in January or so we'll do a Zoom, talk about the plan, finalize it, and then we'll kind of go from there. If you want to know more information about me, you can head to manlygardeningllc.com. I do hire high school students to do some work and labor for me over the summer, so if that's something you're interested, check it out. Otherwise, I'll be in touch and looking forward to working with you guys. Have a good one. Bye.